it'd probably be too big as a workshop in the classroom itself, wouldn't it?
Actually, this might maybe some advantages in doing this.
Yeah.
Hi, Rach.
Hi, Gareth. How are you?
Good.
I've got Wyn behind me. I'm at work in the office. He's the centre of everything we do in Cardiff and Vale. It's not my distasteful wallpaper or anything at home.
I thought I'd come in early just to get
used to
the layout.
Yeah, me too. I just thought, oh God, IT. I think I presented twice to execs and one to the board, and each time my IT has just dropped out. And Len is texting Martin saying, "Buy Rachel a new computer."
If it's any consolation, you will know that. Shut your ears, Zoe, because you're not supposed to hear this. You'll know that Mrs. H obviously is a Cardiff employee.
Yes, exactly.
So they gave her a brand new laptop, because she had to attend a national event on Skype, etc. And I'm working from home. She's working from home in the other room, and all I can hear is screaming and shouting. I'm thinking, what on earth is going on? So I went in and sort of looked, and she couldn't get it to work. I worked my way through it and eventually worked out that they'd given her a brand new laptop with Skype, but disabled the microphone and disabled the camera.
Oh, nice. I think I've got one. Well, I think, to be honest, I think I've got that at home as well. So Martin keeps seeing me in the office, and he's in his kitchen and he's going, "What are you doing in the office?" And I'm like, "Well, it doesn't work at home." And so I thought, there's no way I'm staying home today to do while I'm presenting. It's like, oh, I'm coming in. They've changed my computers, so that's good.
Well, of course, we rolled out, and in true OD fashion, for my sins, I got given the sort of pleasure of leading the 365 project within shared services, because I'd been pushing agile working, new ways of working, etc. So Neil, our MD, said, "Well, okay, let's see what you can make of the rollout to 365," and we started to set up what I would call very much a business change type of methodology, rather than just giving people the kit. And we started planning it all out, and this was in about January. So we put this plan together, and we got to mid-February, and I suddenly thought, oh God, I can't do this. We're going to have to just roll the kit. So we've unfortunately had we've moved about 1,200 users to home and remote working. I never thought our IT department would cope, but literally in 3.5 weeks, we already had laptops and VPNs procured, etc., sat there waiting to go. So that was part of the fortunate bit. But then we literally had to roll people overnight. So the vast majority of some of our services, obviously there are other people that have to come to work, but the vast majority of our services then literally within 3.5 weeks went home.
That's good, isn't it?
And haven't come back since. So if the technology didn't work, we'd have been in a real difficult place.
Definitely. So I think we've got about 34, Zoe was saying to me earlier, coming on this workshop. So
Zoe, can you give us a heads up when you think we've got to about the number that we're going to? Obviously, we'll try and start on time.
Yeah, no problem. I'm also going to make you a moderator, just in case you do need to do anything.
We'll be calling you, Zoe.
You know what me and technology are like.
We'll be saying, Zoe.
You're going to be moving Rachel's slides and stuff. I'll be like, oh, stop it. So just in case, I can always take it off if it gets too much.
Yeah. It's Donna.
Hello.
Hi. See a friendly face.
Hi. Managed to get in.
Oh, well done. She's texting me this morning, Zoe, saying she couldn't get in. I was like, get hold of Zoe.
We've got a couple of that. It's when being on it, it's fine. Like, it's so easy to use, but it's just getting on there the first time. You think, oh, it looks so alien. Yeah. I'm used to Teams and simple things.
Is Louise close to you, though?
Yeah, just better. She's 2 weeks away.
I thought I could hear Louise in the background. I was thinking, hang on.
Yeah, we're in our in HIW in the hub today, the command hub for the conference. So I'll put myself on mute so you don't get any feedback.
They've gone quiet now.
Yeah, because Louise has got one of the Welshest accents. You can't miss her. She's great. Louise and I used to work together at Cumtaff, and she's fun.
Is she in HIW now, Louise?
No, she's still in Powys, but
She's
they've
Powys.
they've used HAW as a base for the conference today.
Yeah.
Because of course we've got a couple of other people in the building as well who are experts in the Gwella system.
Fab.
So if anything went wrong, there are people on hand.
That's good. That's good. That's good. I'm used to having people in the classroom.
I know.
Wynn's still with me, Donna.
I can see him behind you. Yes, I can see old Wyn. He's there. Mike.
Yeah, an aging Mike Mullen.
Are you on your own, right?
What, in HR completely?
Looks like.
It's very quiet today.
Quiet.
So, there's only a handful of people in today. I haven't seen Julia Martin for weeks, I don't think. I've seen their kitchens and their bedrooms. And his thick jumpers because he didn't want to put the central heating on.
He's a skinflint, is he?
Yep.
I'm conscious though, you're taping us, so you'll have to delete all this.
Yeah,
I will. I'll cut it just for this session.
Edit.
Yeah.
Technology seems to be working so far, though.
Yeah, that's fab.
Yeah, so far so good. I don't want to jinx anything. But,
no, don't, please.
Yeah.
I get paranoid otherwise.
Let you finish your session first, Rach.
Oh, it's only because I was just saying to Gareth that I've done 3 presentations to the execs and 1 to the independent, to the board.
Oh, yeah.
And each time I've crashed. And Len's now texting Martin saying, buy Rachel a new computer. I think, oh no, I look really incompetent. Oh dear. More people coming on.
Yeah, just to remind you guys, more than happy to put your cameras on, but if you can go on mute when you first come on, so that we don't pick up the background noise.
I'll go through and make sure everybody's muted anyway when I'm about to start. So, cheers.
And Zoe and Claire, who I can see, and Ellie are on the call. They're probably a bit surprised that I'm early because it's not one of my normal traits.
After this session, Zoe, is it everybody have a break? Is it lunch and stuff, or have they got another session?
Yeah, I think we've got a lunch break then for 45 minutes, and then we're back in for the plenary session with Byron at 1 then.
1, yeah.
So what time is this due to finish? So
we've got until 12:15, so there's an hour in total.
Here they go. Start to arrive now.
Yeah, Gareth, you might see that it's a lot of your team.
Yep.
It's nice.
Oh, it is too.
They think you're presenting, Gareth.
No, they've had enough of me, so they know it's not me, that's definite. I think you said we were expecting 30 odd. So.
Yeah, just over 30, so we're about halfway.
Hello, I was just about to send you the address. Some weird we've had hold on. It's down. Oh, yeah. Okay. How are you doing? I'm okay. Let me speak. Headphones on.
I'm just conscious. One of the dangers of me being not on mute is my little pooches might suddenly start performing in the background. I think I frightened the living daylights at Martin Driscoll once. We were in the middle of one of our ward meetings, and they're not exactly small. They're still puppies, but they're not exactly small. And the one barked, and he literally frightened the living daylights out of him.
Woke him up. Well, I did contemplate for everyone to show their pets if they had pets today, but I'm in the office and I thought I can't bring my cat to the workshop.
Maybe we use this in future. Because I just came from a meeting.
Yeah, I've got a pair of Labrador pups. I say pups, they're just approaching 18 months, so they're in that big phase now, but they're still mischievous like pups. So she is an absolute nightmare. The boy is not too bad, but he's a bit dull. So she tends to lead him into trouble.
Okay, let me just close.
I've got to say as well, if the camera goes off for a minute, my husband's decided to order some chest of drawers today, which are arriving this morning. So if the doorbell rings and I disappear, that's the reason why. And it might be a while because I've got to try and lug them into the lounge past my daughter's scooter and bike.
Don't plan that very well, Claire.
I didn't plan it. You told me yesterday. And I thought,
oh no, don't say I got a sign for this now.
I had my plan already. I've sent my 18-year-old son to McDonald's to get me a nice cup of coffee and a flatbread.
That's a good idea.
We're on about 20 at the moment, so still expecting a few more.
We got a few more to join.
But yeah, up to you guys when you want to kick off.
It's okay. He's put it through the letterbox. I'm okay. Didn't have to go inside or anything. Should we give it a couple of minutes and then we'll make a start?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Because we're nowhere near 30, are we?
No, we're on about 19 at the moment.
Okay.
You passed the technology test anyway, Rich.
Although on me, I did it hands-free.
Yeah, that was me.
That's Zoe. I could just about do slides. No, I know we need to learn more, don't we?
Right, should we? I'm just conscious. We give it 1 minute, and at 20 past, we'll kick off and make a start. I'll just tee it up then.
No, and I think Rachel's come back and said that she's realised that she hasn't answered the emails. So what happened is so the sequence of events is to die and send a response send it to myself and Rachel and you, wasn't it? And you, yeah. And I came back and then asked the question around being 15 sent to.
Okay, let's get underway then and make a start. Welcome everyone. There's quite a few familiar faces and names in front of me today. Hopefully you're about to enjoy the session that we're just going to kick off. The session today is going to be led by Rachel Gidman, our Assistant Director of OD at Cardiff and Vale Health Board. The background to this is that over a number of years leading up to the pandemic, Cardiff and Vale were looking to implement a system of leadership and culture, which inspired a pretty high level of trust among staff, allowing them to operate with low levels of bureaucracy. In 2019, through their partnership with New Zealand's Canterbury District Health Board, connections that the Chief Executive had out there, they kicked off this piece of work. As part of the programme, staff were given permission to innovate and act where they saw fit in order that they could improve the healthcare system and make services better. That happened pre-pandemic, and then, of course, the pandemic arrived, and that gave a really good indication of how quickly the reality and the learning was then captured. I'll blow a trumpet for her. Rachel, who is our presenter today, was integral to all the work at the Dragon's Heart Hospital, and I know that Len Richards, the CEO, has personally recognised Rachel for the contribution that she's made to the operation there at what most of us remember as what used to be the National Stadium, but it's not looked like that for a little while, Rachel. So over to you.
Oh, thanks, Gareth. It's a pleasure to speak to the WAD community, actually, and nice to meet you if I haven't met you before. Usually I love being in a classroom, making it interactive, bringing humour and fun to it. So hopefully I'll try to do that in the next sort of 55 minutes that we've got together. So I don't want to be the one talking throughout. I want to engage with you all. So I will stop throughout the presentation and, get your thoughts about or questions. Really, just introduce you the guy behind me. It's not my pink wallpaper at home with a win in the background. He's the centre. He's integral to everything we do. We use a character like many of you may do in your health boards or trusts about what we should be talking about, not money and targets at the forefront, but we should be talking about what's right for the population and for our patients and citizens. So that's just a reminder in the background. But before we start, and I'm not going to put anyone in a position to put their cameras on, but for those who are happy to, and they're not in their pajamas or whatever, what I want you to do is get a pen and a piece of paper. So some of you might have to get up to get that, but just grab a pen and a piece of paper. And then for those who are happy to put their, and if you don't want to put your camera on, that's fine. Maybe just use the chat bar so I can see your answer. Okay, so the question I just want to ask you, which I think is really important, and I think sometimes we don't stop and ask each other this question. A lot of cosmetic listening goes on, but really, how are you feeling today? I just put one word on your piece of paper and just show me or write in the chat bar how are you actually feeling at this moment.
Is it likely to be 10, 15 minutes, or is it likely to be longer? Right, so...
So we've got some on the chat bar, relaxed, tired. I think that's a common theme at the moment. Our workforce very tired and ourselves full of cold. Positive, head very busy, tired, yeah. Positive. What have we got on the screen? Go a bit closer, Donna. What's that say? Energised for a change. Happy, brilliant. What's that, Claire? What have you got there? Do you want to take your mic off and just shout because I can't see the writing? Busy. Busy. Gareth, how do you feel today?
Yeah, I'm going to be off. Yeah, I'm supposed to be off this week.
I can't see. Excited. Brilliant. So that's a good start. And hopefully, people who are tired, I think we're all feeling a little bit fatigued. And actually, how do we keep going? And how do we keep motivating and engaging our workforce? So what I'd like to do today in this presentation, what I'm doing is going to bring my story alive for you. But I know we all had our own COVID bubbles. So I do want to hear your thoughts as we stop and ask questions about how did that play out for you? But just to get you into the real dragon's heart of it, a few questions, just use the chat bar for here, right? Just to get you in the mode. On a Friday evening, 6 o'clock at the beginning of March, my executive director rang me. It was about 6 in the evening. I'd had a busy week. I was exhausted, really. And he said, "Oh, Rachel, I've got something to ask you." And I said, "Oh, right, okay." He said, "The first word I heard was, I trust you to do the right thing." I was thinking, where's this going? And he said, "I'd like you to lead for the workforce and OD for the new field hospital with a capacity of potentially 2,000 beds. And my first inner dialogue, my first thought was, oh my God, I'm OD, I'm not workforce. So what I want to also challenge us and while listening to our story is not just to be held back by our title. Really think about, I actually feel proud now that I can actually add in workforce and OD if I want to, or but it's actually not about a title, it's about people. So the first question, though, just to get us warmed up, is, so obviously we got told that we had picked that the Principality Stadium, previous Millennium Stadium, was going to be our new field hospital for Cardiff and Vale population. What year was the Principality, or what year was the Millennium Stadium built? And what was it built for? In the chat bar, see who's fastest finger first. What year was it? 2000 close, Lena? 90? Oh, Ross, very close. Yeah, Gareth. Oh my God, you're all so quick. So actually, a lot of you, 1999, and it was for the Rugby World Cup. So fabulous. Okay, no holding you back there. You've got that. But how long does it take to open the roof? So the roof of the stadium, there's a lot of controversy. Do we open the roof? Do we close? Does England want to open, close, etc.? How long does it actually take to close and open that roof? Oh, 8 hours, 3 hours, 6 hours, an hour, 2 hours, all a bit, it's less than that, just to give you anything. 30, yeah, close to that. So it's actually, so some of you are saying 30 minutes, it's actually 20 minutes. What I brought the roof into it is when we talk about the tents that we actually put on the pitch and the ventilation problems that we had to do, I'll come back to that and what we had to do with the roof. How many seats does the stadium hold? How many people can actually go there?
Yeah, but you can't.
How many seats?
Until the...
Oh yeah, Zoe, you're right. God, you've been I know you're a real rugby fan. So yeah, 74,500. Yeah, absolutely. And how many hot dogs do they sell on an international day then? How many hot dogs? And they're expensive, so I don't buy one. I could tell you how many pints. Oh yeah, I could pass. 210k. Yeah, so you're thinking about 74,000 people seats, and you'd think it'd be a large amount, but actually it's 9,000 hot dogs are sold on a typical international day. So people are perhaps drinking more beer than the hot dog side of things. Okay, so that just warms you up, just to know where we're going, where we're going to explore. But really it's about us as workforce and OD community. So I put OD at the forefront, but actually we need to bring it into each of our worlds. Whatever we do, what part do we play? So I started our story about that call that I had from my executive director. And of course, it's my personality. I like to juggle many balls. I sort of perhaps didn't even think about it and said, yes, absolutely. I was asked to go to a Sunday afternoon meeting, which was really strange because although I'd said yes, I didn't realise what the task was all about and what the modelling was happening out there with the pandemic. And I sat down in this lecture theatre with many professionals, a lot of military around me, just talking very logical, very straight. And I'm thinking, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? Have I got? And I think we all have those vulnerabilities, don't we? We're in our comfort zone, and suddenly they've pushed that zone away. And how am I going to cope with this? So I sat in front of this slide saying, this is the situation. This is the best situation we can actually forecast from the model that we're getting from public health. So the mission was clear. We got told that we had to build a hospital for 2,000 individuals, so potentially 2,000 patients in 4 weeks. And that, for me, equated to UHW, our University Health Board, UHW site, and UHL Llandoch site. That was 2 hospitals as one. Now, any of us in workforce and OD, we think, how do we get the workforce now? We don't. We struggle with that. And how are we going to recruit into a double that amount? So that was the task in hand. I think what was clear for any of us probably during this pandemic, we weren't spinning 100 plates. We had one plate and we all knew what that was. It was COVID. So the timelines here, so March the 18th, when we looked at the projection of the actual pandemic, and what we actually got, the executives looked around the stadium, decided that was the site that we were going to take forward. But I know colleagues in Wales altogether, we had many, many field hospitals, and I was linking in with, well, not just Wales, but actually I was having calls from the Nightingale's hospitals. And you'd think to myself, how do they get my name? How do they know that I'm doing this? You know, day 2 into the mission, and you're getting calls from Scotland and London, and the networks were always growing. And I thought to myself, I feel a little bit vulnerable now. And I very quickly linked in with our deputy nurse director. We brought humour into it. We decided that we'd buddy up and actually we could discuss and bounce things off each other. And I don't know whether that was an actual logical, I needed a buddy, but I just felt better in a pair than on my own. So this is where people started to come into play. So as Gareth alluded to, and it probably wasn't all there straight before the pandemic, but the cultural leadership was really important. We were trying to go away from targets and talking about funding. We knew that we have those, but we didn't want it to be the starting point. What happened with the pandemic, everybody kind of, the structures, the hierarchical structures just flattened very quickly. Decision making happened very quickly. When we turned up in the stadium, it wasn't just the normal individuals from health. There was construction teams, project management teams. And actually they said to us, we heard health's very slow. And he said, you're surprising us how quick decisions are being made. So to transform the stadium, things had to go at pace. There was about 600 staff within that stadium working on that mission. But again, it was really important to work as a whole system because it wasn't about, I think what happened for me is people looking in at us at the stadium felt that we were in a luxury environment, that we were having fun, but we were working really hard. Some people kind of felt that we were a little bit out of the system because we were in this big stadium. So then the Minister and Health and Social Services visited us and said that absolutely it was the right thing to do. And actually, the Health Minister said something that I always remember. The amount of money we have spent on this is huge. But he said at the beginning, it's not about the money, it's about our population and keeping them safe. So that was really good to hear straight from the front from him. And just many different parts, and I'm going to show that in a visual shortly, but the Prince of Wales obviously didn't come down through the pandemic, but gave a message. There was a lot of dilemmas within our system about, do we open these hospitals? We had cleared the decks within the other hospitals. There were many empty beds, but do we utilise and open? And it was decided that we would open, and we had about 49 patients that came through the doors. The first patient came and was discharged on May the 5th. We actually then reduced our bed capacity to 1,500 beds because the modelling of the pandemic was actually slowing down and flattening. And then you can see from the other slides our last patient, and now we're on that decommissioning side of things. So for how does that relate to us in workforce and OD? So first of all, how you push yourselves out of your title, out of your comfort zone, but create a support around you that you feel that you can bounce off, that you're not isolated. I think how that came for me, I remember reflecting back and saying, it took me ages to get a team around me. And then my project manager said, it took you 4 days, Rachel. The amount of decision making that took every hour was huge decisions being made. It felt like months that I was on my own when it was actually only 4 days. And it's looking at those people around you. So when we think about workforce and OD, it's not about just workforce planning or recruiting staff. It's actually making them more capable. How do we upskill staff? How do we engage with the professional leads? So I had somebody from education around me. I had somebody from project management to make sure all my governance decisions were actually put down. And my executive director just left me alone. He said I just kept away. It wasn't about coming to see the show that you were creating. He'd ring me daily to say, how are you? And to be honest, there were days that I was up, exhilarating. It was a huge challenge, but it was exciting, which sounds a bit perverse, but it was getting things done, and I felt ready for our population really to be safe. But other days I felt angry and quite cross that I felt, and that this was my world, that I felt other colleagues weren't being pushed to the level that I was being pushed. You'll see the video that I show you. I thought I needed Botox by the end of it. My lines around my eyes, my how tired I looked. But again, what was part of it, and I will go through the leadership side of things, was looking back. I did feel like I was on a Gold Command Assessment Centre, and thank goodness we didn't need it. But we had to, as you know, many of you have been to the stadium, what we had to do was vast. And I've got some pictures to show you because I think that will illustrate it better. But we had our programme director, Victoria Legreese, she's a young female with young children, the amount of hours, but her leadership was explicit, her communication with us, but her, again, trust about, I became Rachel Workforce. Clive, our director of genomics, became Clive Equipment. It just completely flattened, and how we actually communicated and pulled things together. But that's what we did. So some conversions of hospitality suites. So let me show you some pictures because I'm sure you'll be interested. So if any of you have been lucky enough to go into the hospitality box, there it is. And that's what we converted it into. So we obviously had to think of the flooring, the pitch you could see in the hospitality pitch. We had to look at the dignity screens. So that was created into a 2-bedded ward environment. The Millennium Lounge, obviously where Jamie Roberts came down to visit, and he said, this is where we usually have a drink and a meal and all these round tables, and how we created the ward environment. It probably it looks all very shiny and lovely there, but actually in reality, when we got in there wasn't much ventilation for our patients. So we felt the best area was actually on the pitch, where there was more rehabilitation areas for our patients. I'm going to show you a few more pictures, and I'm going to stop before I continue whilst I get to pick some questions. This was the concourse. So this is where you get your hot dogs and your beer. And this area was actually not utilised at all. This is probably the area for observation. It would have been quite hard for our workforce to manage. For me, and I'll go through the workforce planning, it was about keeping our patients safe, but also keeping our staff safe, and the well-being of our staff was imperative. Probably heard a lot about oxygen cylinders and lack of them. Jeff Walsh, our director of Capital Estates, he said that he, quickly realised it wasn't just our issue. Actually, it was a national issue around getting these big cylinders, and who got these and priority. And I was even thinking, all Wales, we're not using them, but what happens if our colleagues, yourselves, need them, all of Wales, and how can we convert, and how would we rotate our workforce? And trying to think ahead of the game was really important. So this is one of our, just the sort of bottom of the stadium turned into with our MRI scan and our CT scan. So we had all these facilities available, and then how the pitch went from stripping off. The poor groundsmen were just looking in horror when this happened. They were just, you could imagine. And then they created these 3 big tents, and they couldn't get the right ventilation. So they actually created, there's some, I don't know if you can see the sort of end of closest to us picture. They're quite innovative, ventilators, and the construction guys were very excited about those because they were saying, that's nothing that they've seen in their life before. And then obviously the whole bowl, how it was, and I'll show you a little bit of a time lapse. So at that point, just, realization had hit home probably within a couple of days that I was leading on this. It was a 7-day-a-week, 24/7 really, project that we had to get ready. But again, we kept thinking, when I saw, and I'm being totally honest, when I saw we couldn't call it a mortuary, we had to call it I don't know if this is the word, but sort of a body bank. And they were telling me, we could have up to 40 deaths a day. Reality really hit me. And sometimes quite low, you go back and you think, my goodness, could that be me? Could that be my family? And how important it is to, be ready, but also keep that fun, keep that colleagues, together was really important. Before I go on more about the OD and the workforce side, is there any questions you have, or curiosity or thoughts, or can be anything? So,
were you tempted to actually run on the pitch, Rachel?
We did go on the pitch. We were allowed on the pitch. There were bits that you kind of, you don't see behind the scenes, do you? Say, oh, can I touch that? And can I have a picture of that? We weren't, not when there was grass on there, but when it was actually laid over. Absolutely. Yeah, it was quite surreal, actually, thinking the next time I could be here, I could be watching a match, and the WRU were completely involved with us as well. They were really good with their chaperones and how they get around the stadium and how we orientate ourselves. So, yeah. Any other questions or curiosities or thoughts so far?
Yeah, Rachel, I've just got one. It's Claire.
Hi, Claire.
It's absolutely amazing what you guys achieved. It's absolutely superb. But I'm just interested because obviously it was such a busy time, and you mentioned the horrible things about the mortuary and stuff like that. How did you keep your health and well-being in check and look after yourself?
Yeah, for those who know me, I'm a bit of a high liveliness, character, positivity person by nature, but also I'm human. And like I said, my emotions did go up and down. We absolutely, and I probably should have put a picture on here, completely transformed our garden. So when we came home at the weekends, I kind of had a couple of hours, and I felt guilty sometimes going in at the weekends. I'd say to my husband, I'm just going out to the supermarket. He works in the health board, so he knew that I was off, I had to be part of it. But there was one day that really hit me, Claire, and I kind of wobbled a bit. And I luckily, I don't very often at the moment. And I got my mindful app out. And I actually lay in bed with that, and that really helped. But I think it was just the support of my executive director listening to me. He'd touch base a day a week, but he didn't get involved, but he was there if I needed him. So I had a lot of support around me. I know when I'd run in and Donna's in the workshop, and I went from heels to pumps, so I'd run into their meetings in HR, and I'd be in my sort of jeans and they were like, "Ooh, you look a bit different today." But yeah, I think it's really important, Claire. I've got a nursing background. People always ask me, did that help with my nursing background? I think it did. The model of care for this stadium was rehabilitation. But if I strip my knowledge back from the nursing side, I think it's about how we build relationships with people. So I didn't do any of it, really. Everybody else did it. I engaged with all of the heads of service, pharmacy, OTs, physio, heads of that actually pull together things for me. So, and I've got it on a slide coming up that in New Zealand, which we went to benchmark last year, they have a Maori term about it's about people. And I do think it's pobble. I think it's about how we interact, how we build our relationships, and how we empower and bring people on with us. My team that I created were not senior team members. It was people I really wanted to empower and develop. And I had to split them up at the end because I thought, what have I done to them? I brought such a cohesive team together. They were in this dream world. They loved, and I thought they've got to go back to their day job. So again, it was... our Newfield Hospital, I said, I could go in and do that now, the Lakeside Wing, but actually it's about somebody else taking it on and I'll support. So, I think one real wobble day when I saw the kind of mortuary, and I am quite a visual person, like many of you probably are, and you think, oh gosh, this is here actually, this is reality. So thank you for asking. Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel.
Any other questions, or shall I move on? As you can see, I can talk for Wales, so you do have to. If you close your eyes, I know I've switched you all off. Okay, so that's just a few pictures, and I have got a YouTube clip to show you about how that. Perhaps I'll show you that now. Actually, I'm completely going out of order, Zoe. I'm going to go on to Prince Charles one. So do I just click on there?
Yeah.
I'm delighted to welcome you to the official opening of Ysbyty Calon y Ddraig, the temporary hospital built by Cardiff and the Vale University Health Board in response to COVID-19.
She's doing the presentation now.
It's with a combination of great pride, but also some sadness, that I look out across this famous pitch this afternoon. Pride due to the phenomenal achievement of what my NHS colleagues at Cardiff and Vale University Health Board and our partners have achieved. Pride at the way in which the communities, local businesses, trades and contractors, military, volunteers and the broader NHS Wales family has come together in a matter of weeks. But sadness that we've had to respond to a public pandemic across Wales and indeed across the globe in this way.
It was just over 2 weeks ago that I came here to see some of the work that was being done. And the structure you see over my shoulder wasn't created. The pitch was flat. None of the structures were there. And I think that in just 2 weeks' time, you see what has been created behind me and what exists all around this famous pitch.
We have accomplished in 2 weeks what under normal circumstances might take us 2 years. The construction of the UK's second largest surge hospital, a hospital that will be staffed by up to 2,000 staff, who will change 18,000 bedpans, serve 12,000 meals and carry out 20,000 logistical movements every day. It has taken over 100,000 hours of labour from 600 staff to get us this far. We are one team caring for our community.
Thanks again to all those who have helped to make this happen, and thank you to you for everything you are doing. Together we are protecting our NHS, and together we are saving lives.
And I simply want to add my voice to the tributes that have been paid to all those involved, from so many different walks of life, who have made this possible. The Welsh Government, the National Health Service Trust, the planners, builders and technicians, the armed forces, and of course the medical staff and volunteers who will be taking forward this hospital's vital work. In a facility named so evocatively and so appropriately Calon y Ddraig, what can I say except diolch o galon, and express the warmest possible thanks for what you have done and all that you will do in this hospital.
So that just highlights sort of it gave me goosebumps actually, just even watching that. But I would say, although this was a Cardiff and Vale population build, in my mind, it was ready for all of Wales. If the conversations had changed and others struggled, it was about how I would connect with other workforce colleagues, about how we would look at our workforce. So although initially the conversation with Cardiff and Vale, there was never a conversation nationally we would need it, but if it was trying to prepare for that. And these are just some areas. The tents, they were saying, were 8 times larger than the Glastonbury Pyramid Stage, if you've ever been there. Doesn't float my boat, so I haven't been to festivals, but I mean, I could imagine how vast that is. The amount of water pipes and generators, like I said, with the ventilation, just to get that right temperature for our patients on the tent was really important. So with him, it was interesting because I remember sitting in the changing rooms in the WRU, and that's where we all had our comms and our communication. And I remember saying and this is where humour came in, and they kept talking about soft FM and hard FM. And I'd look at my deputy nurse director and say, what is that? And it was facilities management, and it was a new sort of term. And it was interesting because it was even coming to sort of say, and we had to be quite courageous and challenge each other at times, because, they'd say, right, we're going to do meals at 9, 12 and 5. And I was saying, well, nurses are not going to eat at those times. So it was thinking about those little subtleties for our workforce. Where were we going to put the showers? Where were we going to put the lockers? Where were they going to have some time out? Staff havens were really important about how we can actually, our well-being of our staff was paramount. That was at the start of everything we did, actually, looking after our staff. So then it came out of my comfort zone, the workforce plan. And I was thinking, oh, my goodness. And I remember just actually having a really basic chart in front of me that I pulled together one evening. I even asked my 21-year-old son, just make it colourful. I can't do this, And then I recruited somebody from HR into my small team who had been involved with the major trauma centre. And she said, and if you look at this chart, it just says, this is my head. It was just numbers, She's like, but we've got to convert that into money, and we've got to convert that into 24/7, 7 days a week. And I was like, oh, do we? So it was starting off looking at all the professions, and this is just half of them. But somewhere in my creative mind, and I don't know where this came from, I thought, but what happens if we run out of staff? The model has to change. We probably could get to 330 beds with a traditional model of our workforce, but after that, we would be struggling. So I engaged with the St. John's ambulance and the Red Cross. I don't know why, I don't know where it came from. It was just, I don't know whether I saw something on Twitter or something, but I rang the St. John's, and they were fabulous. They were like, we've said we can offer hundreds of staff in the Nightingales in London if required. Of course, we'll give them to you voluntary. I said, we'll induct them, we'll get their uniforms, we'll make sure that they're safe. And what I noticed when they came on our induction, because it wasn't only that I had to pull this together, we had to induct them, we had to upskill them. I noticed that just listening to the St. John's colleagues, that actually they don't wash patients. So they don't, they might be on the side of the rugby pitch there to help, but they have never washed. So we actually put 2-day training on for them to upskill them like healthcare support workers. And out of I don't know how many in the end, we probably only had about 10 that worked for us, 12-hour shifts. But actually, probably about half of them wrote to me afterwards, after I thanked them, to say that they've actually gone into careers into health. Some have gone into paramedic training, some have gone into healthcare support worker training. And that was just great to hear that due to their experience, actually they decided to, because people were volunteering, they were in different roles. Again, with the WRU colleagues who were furloughed, we wrote all to them, if you want to be upskilled and want to work in part of the system, come and join us. And as many of you do, and it was a bit of out of the blue, really, because we don't recruit, do we? Internally, we have our central shared services, but we did a mass recruitment, which we got on board about 1,000 staff to help within both the Dragon's Heart, but also the other parts of the hospital. So the OD part, I love being with people. I'm curious about people. I love the personalities and the dynamics it can give. So for me, that is one thing that I do indulge in, I suppose. But just meeting, the military, I learned that you can't just pull on the military for an emergency unless, it's well planned, unless it is emergency. You can't say, in 3 weeks' time, we might need your help to make some more beds. You had to go through a whole hierarchical structure to sign off with the brigadier and the CEO. So again, learning the models with the forces. And again, these are some of the colleagues, and obviously Len, our CEO, who is just, very supportive of culture and leadership and given permission to our staff to do the right thing for the patients. So this is the attractive YouTube video that I promised that you'll see my didn't quite go to Botox, just had to go and buy a heavy eye cream. But this is just really how I felt all the time. And so I got told they liked this one because it was the Cardiff Blues venue that I'm in. So they quite like the pictures in the behind. So I'm going to see if I can work this so you can see this.
In essence, they kind of lead the discussion.
I'm Rachel Gidman. I am the Assistant Director of Workforce and Organisational Development for Cardiff and Vale University Health Board. We had an awareness induction. We've actually had nearly 400 individuals go through that to look at the model of care, why we actually have to have this temporary hospital, and then things like guidelines and protocols around learning, a system that we really want to have in a learning environment, and making sure everybody felt safe and engaged. Not only we looked at the types of care we're going to deliver, but for staff it was really about their welfare and their well-being while they're down here. Where are our staff going to eat? Where are they going to change? Where are they going to put their property? So the lockers, the showers, and just that psychological support. So I've been linking in with our psychologists about the different phases that it could hit us, because sometimes it can be post-COVID that people really feel like, what's just happened to me? And they look back and need that sort of support. There will be 2 registered nurses with a 25-bedded unit with up to 8 healthcare support workers. Within that 8, we've actually been able to engage with the St John's workforce, and we've provided them with some extra training to ensure that they're upskilled with things like washing patients and assisting patients in a different way. We also then have therapists, so it's a rehabilitation unit. So we've got physiotherapists, occupational therapists, and sort of technicians that support their speciality. But again, we've got teams behind that. We've got porters and caterers. We've worked with the Welsh Ambulance Service to ensure that it's a good time throughout the day that one patient comes in and is settled and is familiarised with the environment. And again, for the staff, that they feel prepared, they're not overwhelmed, and they can ensure they give the best care. If you look at our strapline for Cardiff and Vale, caring for people, keeping people well, and I feel that's for both our patients but also our staff.
As I said, it is in essence the standards.
So it's about how do we keep our staff now going forward? You know, how do we've started our staff survey, haven't we? Have you all done yours? Yeah, very quick. Yeah, it's quite easy one to do, isn't it? But you know, how do we temperature check? You know, not just yearly. You know, I'm looking at how do we temperature daily or weekly, that you know how our staff are actually feeling. The well-being actually is you know huge, isn't it? And about how we continue to invest in that. But how do we, if we're in the traditional HR, how do we broaden our knowledge around the leadership, the skills and leadership and the educational side of, and really for me, it would be about, you know, for you, if you're sitting there, how can you challenge yourselves going forward? What could you do differently today than you did yesterday? You know, how can you really push those boundaries? Because I do think we sometimes limit ourselves. Me saying, and there's a guy, Jeremy Griffiths, who came as our director of ops, and he says, I remember you saying to me, Rachel, but I'm OD. And, you know, how do we challenge to really broaden our workforce and OD portfolios, but obviously with the support. And it is about the learning. We did use this as a learning community. We were capturing innovation. We did try things to flatten the structure. It just happened more so it did happen throughout the system, but more so in Dragon's Heart. How do we capture that so we don't go back into silos? And again, you know, just really pushing ourselves, because it's the same people. When people say to me, we're going back into silos, I'm saying, but you're the same leaders. You're the same people having these conversations. So again, as a workforce challenge, and again, looking at systems leadership and compassionate leadership. A lot of us talk about Professor West about compassion, but really we did care for each other and ask each other how we were. And I think we were talking in our wellbeing group yesterday. We don't stop to say to our staff, how are you doing? But actually, if we do, we sometimes then move on rather than saying again, how are you doing today? So that's my story, and I appreciate, you know, this is about Cardiff and Vale, but I think we all have our COVID stories, and it's about how we learn from those, but how workforce and OD are absolutely critical to any projects, and how people see that extra value that they see the value, but that extra value that we can give. But it was about the people who made it. So I'm going to stop now. So I think you've got just about 5-10 minutes just for some questions. So thank you.
Well, wow is the first response, Rachel, in terms of what you've just shared with us as an experience that I'm sure many Welsh rugby fans, I know Zoe Wall, who works in my team, has probably been having a small fit seeing all the photographs that she's just seen there, and extremely jealous. But it just goes to show the magnitude of what was delivered in an amazingly short space of time. So
thank you.
Let's look at opening up to questions. If people want to put it in the sidebar, I think you can see from some of the comments that most people recognise the enormity of what you've done as a health board, and there were of course other examples across Wales where projects of a similar ilk were delivered, but not on the same kind of scale. This was one that was bigger than most. So, is there anything that anybody out there would like to ask Rachel? There's one question that I've got in my head, which was when you went home at night, and you went home to the family, and you talked about your garden and the rest of it. How did you manage to switch off?
I don't think I did. I don't think I really did switch off, and I think that's probably it's really funny because I alluded to that we're a family of NHS, so there were colleagues who perhaps their partner wasn't in the NHS, and they'd have those conversations about taking off your clothes, go and have a shower. When my husband and I both work in the NHS, so I had young adults, children who were like, I want to come and work down there, I want to be there, so I think the gardening helped. I've done so many painting panels of my fences, which was very cathartic, but I don't think I did. The thing is, I came after. I said to Martin Driscoll's my executive director, and I said to Martin, I came back and I said, you're going to have to give me a big challenge because I'm going to get bored now. And he said to me, which was really interesting, that wasn't reality, Rachel. That was just a time, you would burn out. You would absolutely burn out if you continued that pace. And I thought, yeah, he's right. That was just a period of time that you couldn't have consistently. So, yeah, gardening was good. The weather helped. So I think the sunshine helped as well. But I don't think I really switched off, Gareth.
Okay. There's two, sort of Richie and Vicky have got a question which is very similar, which was around, if you had your time again, what would you do differently, or would you do something differently?
Yeah, I would have. So I think because of the pace, so I prior to this role, and Richie will know this, that I was head of education in Cardiff and Vale. So I suppose because I've been in the organisation nearly 30 years, I had a lot of networks. I knew what to do in education. So I just did it all in some respects. But what I would do this time, which I am doing this time with the new Surge Hospital, is that my head of education is leading on the training and the induction. Other people are doing other things. Jonathan Pritchard's leading on the Surge Hospital, and he might say, "Can you step in if I can't make a meeting?" So definitely. But I think I sometimes apologise to my head of education to say I'm really sorry, I should have, and she says no, it was the pace, Rachel, but she's fully involved. So I think. Yeah, it's all good in hindsight, isn't it? So I think that was the main thing.
We've got another question here from Donna, which talks about raising towards the challenge and moving forward, and saying, you mentioned people going back to their silos, but how do we now do that? So some reflections on going back into those silos.
Yeah, I think so. Quite quickly, again, myself, we were doing some lots of leadership work around our sort of senior leaders pre-COVID. So Martin and I started to interview. My executive director started to interview half an hour slots with these individuals to find out what's gone well, how we transform things, what's not going so well, and this is where the silo side of things came back in. We also restructured we have clinical boards in Cardiff, and we went into site leadership. So there was a discussion about site leadership versus clinical boards, and did that help? So we're trying to work now. It's very difficult because it's behaviours and people, isn't it? So it's the same people that did amazing jobs with amazing decision making that suddenly our egos are coming back into it, and not so good behaviours, and actually not just one spinning plate, which was COVID. Now we've got lots of spinning plates because we're trying to get back to normality with also trying to plan for this, you know. So it is difficult, but we've got an executive real lead on with our CEO as well about culture and leadership's really important, and it doesn't happen overnight, but that's a real driver for the organisation to chunk away at it.
Good, excellent. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, it looks as if we've run out of time because I've got the message popping up saying the recording time is now about to end. So we'll take a break and allow people to have lunch. But I think it would be remiss of me not to say both thank you for sharing that experience with us, and well done for an achievement.
Thank you. It wasn't about me. It was about people. And also, you know, guys, if you're interested or anything else you want to learn, just drop me an email, pick up the phone, and we can have a chat. But I'd love to be in a class, you know, in a room with you all, you know. But thank you for your time. It's been great. Thank you.
So we'll see you all back in the main room at 1 o'clock. Thanks, guys.
What we might want will be dictated by whatever's around that particular time.